Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at quite a few new things, and for some of these they are going to be first impressions, so I will have a follow-up on those in a later video. So just for reference, I'm testing out the Bobbi Brown Weightless Skin Foundation SPF 15. I have shade C004 Alabaster, and that's what I'm wearing in the video today. We are going to take a look at the new YSL liquid blushes. I picked up all of them. I also picked up 6 of the new Valentino studded lipsticks. So we're going to take a look at those, as well as the new Givenchy Porcelain powder. I picked up a mini, and we'll talk about it. But just something to know, this has apparently been pulled from the Givenchy and Sephora website at the moment. So I'm not sure what's going on, but we'll see. We'll take a look at this. Is it really as shiny as people say? So let's go ahead, and we're going to start off actually with the powder. So in this packaging here, I have the original #1 Mousseline Pastel, and then I purchased the mini in the new formula #1 Mousseline Pastel. So we do have a few differences. You can see we have like a rim around the edge here. This was actually a limited edition lid here. This is going to be a smooth edge on the top, and there is going to be a slight difference in the mass of the powder. Now, whether that's a change in volume is really hard to say, because it is supposed to be lighter and airier overall for the newer formula, so it might be the same volume of product, but it may actually weigh less. So let's start off by taking a look at the original. So we have our 4 shades. It does come with a puff. I never use a puff, so I will use a puff in the demo so you can see it, and I used a clean puff there. So let's go ahead, and I'm just mixing the 4 shades together, and let's go ahead and swatch this on my arm. And when we do an up-close demo, we'll also take a look at this swatch up close on my hand, which might be a little bit of a better view. Now for the small one, again, it comes with a puff here, and I have this swatched with the original on my hand as well, kind of up close when we're going to take a look at the demo. Now the 2 formulas, basically they have replaced the talc, and they've replaced it with kaolin and floroflogite, which I apologize for my pronunciation on that, but the combination of those will produce a little bit more of a radiant finish. You can see here that the original is more matte. The new one does have a little bit more of a shine to it. It's not glitter. There's no glitter particles, but it is going to be something that reflects light a little bit more. Let's move on to the demo. Now, according to Givenchy, the new powder is going to blur and set for 12 hours as it mattifies and illuminates the complexion for 24 hours. So it really is supposed to give you a bit more of a satin matte sort of finish. I would say there's a little bit more of a sheen to it, a little bit more shine than a true satin. And also, according to Givenchy, it says our new ultrafine formula is 46% thinner than the previous one. It's made of micronized powder to provide a comfortable, breathable finish for a long wear, bare skin sensation. There's an all-day blurring effect that enhances skin's natural radiance. It's now powered by their exclusive prismatic light technology, which is composed of soft focus powder to help blur imperfections during those 12 hours for a better light diffusion while smoothing skin's texture, as well as light reflecting pearls that contribute to enhance skin's natural radiance for 24-hour luminosity. It's also enriched with white clay that helps to provide a 24-hour mattifying effect. And overall, my thoughts on this new powder, it's not as bad as I was expecting. I've seen some of the stuff on there, like people saying it's like as shiny as a disco ball. I don't think it's quite that shiny. It's not quite highlighter material. However, it could be used more to help kind of soften blushes and things like that. The biggest thing is the Givenchy Prisme Libre powder is a classic powder that is great for mattifying and kind of giving you that beautiful, sophisticated matte finish. That is not what we have anymore. This is essentially a new powder, and we're going to have a little bit more of a sheen or a glow to it. It does offer some mattification. You know, you can tell it blurs and it's going to kind of give you a little bit more of a matte look, but there's a sheen to it as well, which means that it's a little bit better off more in targeted areas, in my opinion. So I think that although this isn't like a terrible powder itself, it's not what it used to be. And the audience for this powder, you know, I feel like they have now kind of shifted their focus. And I don't know if that was actually intentional, but I feel that this powder is going to reach a different set of consumers than the original, which was definitely more classic and matte looking on the skin than this new powder. Now, personally, I always loved the Prism Libre powder. It's something I've had for many, many years. I have several different variations of it. And I loved it as a setting powder as well as a finishing powder. And I felt like it always gave a very sophisticated look. This new one, I would use very light-handedly as a finishing powder, or to help kind of like tone down a blush where I went in a little bit too much. But because it does add a little bit more radiance, I don't really like to use this one all over the face. And it's more of a personal preference, but I do think that this might end up being a powder that, you know, is something more highly appreciated by some younger generation looking for more of that glow and that brightness than those of us who perhaps have more skin imperfections that we don't necessarily want to highlight with the sheen. So those are my thoughts on the Givenchy powder. I will have further thoughts on this in another video, along with some comparisons with some additional powders like the new Tom Ford powder and so forth. So let's go ahead and we're going to move on to the YSL liquid blushes. All right, so we're going to start off with 66 Fuchsia Fling. This is the packaging here. You can see that we have the frosted glass down here at the bottom. We've got the YSL logo here on the cap. Don't do what I did when I first tried to open this. I pulled this off and I was like, oh, it's really tough to get off. But it kind of like sounds a little rattly on the container. So I thought it was just a lid. It's not. It's a twist off. So when I first pulled it off, I pulled the applicator out. So you can see that we do have a doe foot applicator. It's angled. You could use this directly on the skin on your face, but I do think it is best to add it to like the back of your hand or, you know, a palette or something to kind of soften that a little bit and get an even application. Texturally, this has a little bit of a vinyl texture to it. It feels like an aqueous vinyl texture. So if you are familiar with the YSL vinyl lipsticks that they used to have, which are coming back out, it feels like a more, I wouldn't say a more watery version because it doesn't feel like a thinner liquid per se, but it does feel like there is a higher water content to it. But yet you still have a little bit of that vinyl texture. This actually, it blends out very smoothly, but there is a relatively quick dry time to it. So you do want to kind of let it go quickly. Again, this one here is 66 Fuchsia Fling. And you can see this is going to be a bright cool tone pink. We do have blue undertones in here. The next one here, this is 69 Lavender Lust. And this one here is actually going to be best more as a highlighter, in my opinion. And it really works well in conjunction with the other shades to kind of give you a little bit more of that lavender hue, but it's not going to show up very strongly on its own. And this is going to be the Lavender Lust. You can see blended out. It will have a little bit of pink in there, but it is going to be a cool tone lavender. And I think it's a really beautiful shade, but it's definitely more of an enhancing shade versus a true blush shade. Then we have 57 Coral Clash. And this is going to be a bit more of a peach. I don't really find this to be a coral shade at all. It is more of an orangey peach, kind of like a soft pumpkin shade. And it's very beautiful, warm tone, light shade. Next, we have number 37, which is Peachy Nude. And this one here is going to be a bit more of your soft terracotta shade. You can see we have some brown in there. We have some red in there. Not too much peach. It's really more of a softer terracotta. So think of, you know, a true terracotta pot and you're looking more at this shade here. So this is Peachy Nude. 44 Nude Lavalier. And this one is probably my favorite. This is going to be your rosy nude shade. And, you know, this is a classic shade for YSL. And I think it's really beautiful. It is going to be a nude rose. It does have a little bit of warmth into it, but it's pretty neutral. And then the last shade here is going to be number 54, Berry Bang. And by the way, the names are only on the outside packaging. They are not on the actual container here. We only have the numbers on the packaging. So this is Berry Bang. And you can see this is going to be a reddish berry. There are some warmer undertones to this. It's neutral. And we have, I would say it's neutral, but it leans a little warm because we do have a little bit of that brick hue in there when you blend that out. So these are the 6 YSL blushes. One more time, we have number 66, Fuchsia Fling, 69, Lavender Lust, 57, Coral Clash, 37, Peachy Nude, 44, Nude Lavalier, and this is going to be 54, Berry Bang. Let's take a look at the cheek demos. So this is the YSL Make Me Blush Liquid Blush, and they retail for $39 US. But right now, at this moment, we already have them on sale at Macy's. They're doing 15% off beauty. So that brings them down to $33.15, which I think is a great deal. Again, I purchased all 6 of the shades here. And according to YSL, this is a weightless and long-wearing liquid blush with a creamy formula that stays all day and dries like your favorite powder blush. Ultra buildable for a healthy flush or rush of vibrant color. Easily blendable for a blurred, soft cloud skin finish. And it's available in 6 shades. They have 12 hours of wear, and for application, they recommend applying 1 dot and blending with your fingers for a light flush, applying 2 dots and blending upward for a little bit more, and 3 dots for more intense application. So in these cheek swatches here, I showed you your 1 dot for your soft application. All of the shades can be applied very softly, but I also showed you a brush application on the left so that you could see a more intense application as well. So I do think that this is a very versatile formula that will work well for a variety of skin tones because we can put this on more softly or more pigmented without having like buildup of product that creates a texture difference. So I think that's something that's really key to this. As I mentioned, we do have a little bit of this vinyl texture in here, and that gives it a little bit of a creamy feeling to it that allows it to really stay pigmented yet blend out. But because of that, you do have a shorter blend time than you might with some other liquid blushes. And, you know, it's still a decent amount of blend time. And if you go in and it seems to like set a little bit too fast, take your foundation brush and just kind of go over that, or even the Lavender Lust shade and go over that. And the moisture in that will help kind of rehydrate that so you can blend that out a little bit more smoothly. Although I have to say, you do have plenty of time to blend it out, provided you do one side at a time. As for product details, we have 15 milliliters of product here, and these are going to be made in France with a 1-year shelf life. Let's do just a couple of comparisons with the Armani Luminous Silk Cheek Tints. So I do have 3 of these. This one here is shade 62. So we're going to put this one right by number 44, Nude Lavalier. And you can see this is going to be a little bit of a cooler pink. Texturally, these are pretty similar. I do feel like there's a little bit more of that vinyl texture in the YSL compared to the Armani, but they're pretty close. Then we have 53. And this is going to be your lighter cool tone pink. We'll put this one right up here, but you can see there's really nothing quite like this shade in the YSL. It's going to be closest to Lavender Lust blended out, but obviously it's a lot more pink. So not quite a match there. And then the other one that I picked up is 50.5, which is a peachy shade. And we're going to put this right next to Coral Clash. You can see that Coral Clash is a little bit more subdued, and it's got a little bit more yellow in it in comparison to the Armani. Performance-wise, I think these are both pretty comparable. The Armani, though, just something to note, these have 12 milliliters of product and a 6-month shelf life. So just something to note, but I do feel that they perform pretty similarly on the skin, and I think they both have a great range of colors. So they do have some similarities though, so definitely take a look at what you already have. And let's go ahead, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Valentino lipsticks. But before we do that, one more time, we have number 66 Fuchsia Fling, 69 Lavender Lust, 57 Coral Clash, 37 Peachy Nude, 44 Nude Lavalier, and 54 Berry Bang. All right, let's take a look at the new Valentino studded lipsticks. These are going to be a slim style matte. You can see we've got this beautiful brush gold studded packaging. We do have a magnetic lid. We have the Valentino logo at the top, and the color number is on the bottom. So we do a slim style packaging, and these are refillable. So I have seen refills already available for purchase, but not at all retailers yet. So we're going to start off with shade 100R. And, you know, 100R is a classic Valentino shade. It's typically called Roman Grace, but in this line, it is called Stand Out in Nude. So this is 100R, and you can see it's going to be a warm rosy pink. I think it's a gorgeous shade. Personally, I really love that shade. But my favorite is the one that's on my lips right now, which is 123R. Which is Spike a Pose. And I do have this in another formula from Valentino as well. So we'll take a look at this one. And you can see that this is going to be a little bit more mauve nude. So it's a little bit cooler in tone, not significantly cooler in tone though than 100R, but we do have a little bit more of those dusty rose vibes to it in comparison. Then we have 134R Couture in the Streets. And this one here is going to be a bit more of a brownish red. So we have a little bit more, it's more brown with some red in it. And it's going to be warmer in tone. So we have a little bit of that terracotta vibe in that shade as well. 200A Red Fiesta is a bright red, and I just couldn't resist it. It looks so pretty. But you can see this is going to be a pretty neutral red. It does have, it's pretty neutral. You know, I wouldn't really say that it's cool or warm, but if you have to pick which way it leans a little bit, maybe slightly warm, but honestly, it's pretty much smack dab on the middle of the scale. So we have 302R Pink is Punk. You can see I already got that messy on the outside. I gotta clean that up. But this is our bright fuchsia pink. We do have blue undertones with this. And we've seen this color in blush and in the cheek and lip tints as well. And then on top of this, or next, we have 508R. And this one is Valentino Baby. And this is a berry shade, and I'll show you this in the lip swatches, also kind of just buffed out with your fingers so you can see how softly you can put this one on as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the lip swatches while we talk about the details. The Spike Valentino Buttery Matte Lip Color retails for $48 US, and refills are available on the Valentino website for $30 US. Now, one thing to note, Sephora does have a limited selection of shades. It did launch there first, so that's where I purchased these, but you can find additional shades at Nordstrom and Valentino at this time. Now, according to Valentino, it says, discover Spike Valentino Buttery Matte Lip Color with up to 10 hours of comfortable wear. The Spike Valentino lipstick is infused with light diffusing gel for a creamy matte finish and cotton oil extract to keep lips looking hydrated and nourished. There are 3 complimentary everyday nude shades, the 100R, 123R, and 134R, which were the first 3 that I swatched. And we have the studded gold medal lipstick case inspired by the Valentino Garavani studded bag. And it was designed to be refillable with an easy clickable design. Just a note, if you purchase these from the Valentino website, you can get free engraving on these lipstick cases. So I think that's always a nice touch, especially if this is something that will be a gift for someone. And again, it's free engraving. It just takes a couple extra days for shipping. For product details, we have 2.3 grams of product. These are made in France and we have a 2-year shelf life. Texturally, these are going to be a thin matte texture. However, it's not going to be one of those powdery mattes. It actually has a little bit, again, of a vinyl texture, kind of like those YSL, but we have more of that matte finish. And it doesn't feel powdery. So I think it's really comfortable on the lips. It does feel, I wouldn't say it's as thin as a weightless lipstick, but it definitely does have a thin texture that you kind of forget about on your lips, and it's very comfortable. These can definitely be blurred out with a fingertip, as you can see with the berry bag, if you would like to get a lighter shade, but you can definitely build these up as well. And I think these are a really great formula. I'm actually very, very happy with these lipsticks. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few comparisons with some shades. So this is the Rosso Valentino Satin Lipstick in 100R. This one came out for holiday last year. I'm going to put this one right above the 100R for the matte. And you can see that the satin is going to be it's a lot lighter, and it's actually going to be a little bit more neutral. It's slightly cooler in tone than the new version as well. So I did want to share that, as well as the lip and cheek tint. I love these Liquid Rossos. This is one of the new shades that just came out, which is 100R. And you can see that this is going to be much closer to the satin lipstick compared to the new studded matte. And again, they did give the studded matte another name, although it does have the same color number. So I find that a little interesting. I'm not sure why they did that. Now, 123R, again, is one of my favorites. This is in the Rosso Valentino matte formula. I would have to say that this feels a little bit thicker on the lips, a little bit creamier. You can see compared to the new one, this is going to be a little bit more nude. It's slightly warmer than the new 123R shade. And I think it's a really beautiful shade. These are both ones, this is one that I wear a ton. It's one of my favorites. And I think this new matte is going to be very similar. So this feels a little bit thicker and creamier on the lips than the new one does. I have to say, I think they're both great formulas though. I do think that the new studded formula, though, is slightly more comfortable over several hours than the original Rosso Valentino, but they're honestly both ones that I love, so no complaints. And then the last one I wanted to take a look at is the Pink is Punk, and this is in the Liquid Rosso, and you can see that it's slightly more of a warmer pink in the Liquid Rosso. It doesn't have quite as much glue, quite as much blue as the new studded matte lipstick. So those are just a few comparisons there. I have to say this new formula I think is fantastic. I really like it a lot. I'll probably pick up more shades in the future. And again, I think getting an engraved from Valentino, is a great option if you're looking at these for a gift. I think the packaging on these is stunning. I personally prefer this packaging over the traditional red from the Rosso Valentino. I don't love this packaging, but I think this one is really chic and nice, and I love the brushed gold. All right, and last up, I want to take a look at the new Sonia G brushes. And I do have a few demos that I'll share with you in just a minute, but these were gifted to me from Sonia G and Beautylish. Thank you so much. These are per the tradition set. We have face brushes. So this is a TF1, and I like this one. You could definitely use this for bronzer. For those of you who love the large bronzer brushes, this is a great size for that. But I actually like it for powder. I like it more as a paddle brush for powder. And I'll show you in the demo how I used this. But you can see it's going to be very soft. We've got the persimmon dye on here, which personally I really like. It makes them special. It makes them a little bit softer as well than just your traditional goat. Then we have TF2, which is going to be your round. I just use with the Givenchy powder, so that's what you see coming up. But you've got the round domed blush brush, which is one of my favorite blush brush shapes. And you can see how nicely it swirls, but you can also use this sweeping or patting. Now, personally, I would recommend using all of these brushes with powder products because of the persimmon dye, but that is a personal preference. You're not necessarily going to harm the brushes if you use it with liquids or creams. And then we have the TF3, which I think is such a great shape. This, I didn't even really know this was missing. I do have like candle flame shape brushes already, but you can see this is a little bit more pointed. It's a little bit more angular. And what I really love about this is getting under the eyes. I think this is great for that. Even a slightly smaller version of this would be great, but it's also great here around the nose and for highlight. And I just didn't know I was missing the shape. So let's go ahead and take a look at the demos real quickly. So just like with the other Traditions brushes, we do have the Kiyaki handles, which we've also seen with some of the travel brushes from Sonia G. These, I think they are just such a beautiful wood. I love being able to see the grain on here. I think it's very luxurious looking, yet very sophisticated as well. So each handle is going to be a little bit more unique because of the specific graining here. Now, as for the bristles, we have the Psycho Goat bristles with the Kakashibu dye, and that's your persimmon dye. It's a persimmon tannin, and this is what makes these brushes really special because it's a very long, arduous process to dye these, and they have to be hand done, and you have like a master artisan who has to do all of these by hand. So it's a very time-consuming task, and it's not something that just anybody can do. It takes a lot of skill to get these done properly. It dates back to the 13th century for this particular technique. And what it does is, just like when you dye your own hair, it's going to change your cuticle of the hair a little bit. So this is going to allow it to grip onto products a little bit more. It's kind of, in my mind, it kind of like roughens up the cuticle a little bit, making little like grooves in there so you can pick up the product. So you have a little bit stronger grip on your products, but it also will set them down very easily. You are able to use this with liquids, creams, and powders, but my personal preference is to use them just with powders because the more frequently you wash these, dye, as permanent as dye can be, these are not going to be 100% permanent. Over years of washing, you will end up fading some of the dye here, and I personally just really love the way that it looks. So that's why I stick to powders with all of these persimmon dyed brushes, but it's definitely a personal preference there. As you can see in the demos, you can definitely use the TF1 for powder. You could use it for bronzer. You can even use it for, in my opinion, like the lighter blushes and so forth. It's a nice fluffy face brush. And the TF2 is a fantastic dome blush brush. I personally really love this for blushes, but you could use it for targeted powders, which you can see I did that with the Givenchy. I've done that with a few other powders as well. And this is also a nice brush for bronzer in more targeted areas or even contour. And then the TF3 I think is great for contour as well because you do have a angled tip to give you a little bit more precision. You can use this for blush, powder, highlighter. I think out of the three, this is definitely the most versatile of the brushes, and it's probably my favorite of the three. So I think for me, it's probably TF3, then TF2, then TF1. But I think it's such a great set. Just a few quick comparisons here. This is the TF1 and this is the Jumbo Bronzer. So you can see they are going to be a little bit different. We do have kind of the arch here versus a flat ferrule, and we do have longer bristles in the TF1, but they are going to be similar shapes. The TF1 is actually slightly larger. This is the travel size Nichi brush, which also has the Kiyaki handles. And you can see we do have an arch. It's similar, but it's not quite as rounded. This is going to be a little bit wider in the ferrule. And again, this is going to be shorter and more dense. So this is a really great bronzer brush as well. Whereas because of the longer hairs here, this is going to be a little bit better for powder, but can definitely be used for bronzer. And for the TF2, these are my two closest. This is the Refer 37. You can see it's going to be shorter. It's also domed, but you can see it's going to fan out a lot more. And by the way, these Sonia G brushes have been washed. They're already fluffed up. And this is the Sonia G Soft Buffer, which you can see they both have round ferrules, but this is going to have a smaller diameter. And our bristle length is going to be pretty similar, but the TF2 is slightly longer. So it will give it a slightly fluffier application here. So I don't have anything close enough to compare it to the TF3. So I do think that this is a really special brush. Thank you again to Sonia G and Beautylish for sending those to me. So just a quick summation of everything that we looked at here today. We took a look at the new Givenchy powder, and it's definitely shinier than the original. It's not a favorite. I think it's definitely something to be used for a targeted application, but I do think those who are looking for a bit more shine, this might be something that people will like. It's not a bad powder. It's just very different from the original. Then we took a look at the new YSL liquid blushes. I have to say I really like them. You can definitely blend those out very softly or more pigmented. And I think the applicator is really easy to use, having that doe foot applicator. And I love the color range. So I think these are definitely a win. I love having the lavender lust here to kind of help tone down some of the other shades or to add as a base or even on top of one of the other shades. So it's really more of a highlighter or kind of a complementary shade in my opinion, but I think it's a nice addition to the line. Then the Valentino studded lipsticks. I absolutely love these. I think we have a very chic packaging here. Formula is very nice. It's light. It has a little bit of a creamy texture when it goes on, but then you just kind of forget that it's there. And it doesn't feel powdery. So it's just so comfortable. I really, really like those. And then we took a look at the new Sonia G brushes, which I think are such a great set. I love the tradition set, and I'm really happy to have some face brushes in this line. So my favorite of those would be the TF3. So thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know your thoughts on these products, what you've tried, what you're interested in trying. Please share down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.